Alright, so hello and welcome back. Now in this video, we're going to look at what it takes to run a virus. Now, we're going to go ahead and install this Rails package because install git executables because I need some type of programming language to actually execute my commands. But if you can write this in a bat file, or if you have a program like Shoo for Ruby, or you have something that can package it as an executable, then you can usually just develop it and write it as an executable, and then you won't have to install this on a victim's computer. But since I don't particularly actually want to develop a virus that I'm going to spread to other people, I'm going to keep it in code format so that it becomes even harder to execute it. Now, let's see what we got here. If I go over to downloads, you will find that I downloaded 2 files. This type of file can harm your computer. Do you? Yes, I want to keep it anyway. Keep anyway. Yeah, as you can tell, it already detected that this is a virus. And of course it says virusexample.com. So I made this as blunt as possible. Now let's go ahead and open this with a notepad so you can see what's actually in it. Open. It's going to say select a program. And if you don't know about editors already, you can use Notepad to open anything that requires text. Now as you can see, this is a very simple file. It's maybe 7 lines? So I automatically make I equal to 2, and then I run a while loop so that as long as I is above 1, I'm going to file.open a number of that file, and then I'm going to write to it, and then I'm going to tell it to do this over and over and over and over and over and over again. So in other words, the entire purpose of this file is to continuously write files non-stop. CD users, CD testers, CD download. Oh, I missed it. There we go. Okay. DR. And there it is. And let's go ahead and run it. And here we go. Undefined method at nil. No method error. So let's go ahead and open up this and see what I did wrong. So, and 7 minutes later, no implicit conversion. What the fuck do you mean? That's not implicit. That's direct. That is not an implicit conversion. That is an explicit conversion. 30 minutes later. It's saying unexpected identifier. We have the directory in the W. Sysopen. Oh, I'm a dumbass. Ruby V. Okay, now if I guessed correctly, yes, this is exactly what the program does. And it'll do it until you run out. Exactly what the program does. Okay? So I may have written it wrong, but as you can see, it does a very well job. And essentially, the entire purpose is to take out the memory. Now, you could technically optimize this for better control, but at the same time, would you really want to? The entire purpose was for you to understand how a virus works. This is the most basic style of virus that was ever created. A while loop that continuously wrote files to the computer. That's how a virus works. It does something that it shouldn't be doing. That's pretty much how all viruses fucking work. Excuse me if I have some vulgar language that some of you don't like. This is a development channel, and I will have some random stuff up here. It's not always going to be about teaching languages. It's not always going to be about writing viruses. It's basically my jack-in-the-box of a YouTube channel that I want to share with other people. Now, we just sat through and literally wrote our own virus. And I actually want to go in here and I want to go ahead and remove all these. And how many did it create, Jonathan? 21,619. Okay, so in other words, I just took up 21 megabytes within a few seconds. Now, obviously, you can make this go faster. You can make it write more than one file at every loop. But essentially, that is how it works. Oh, my bad. Excuse me. Apparently, it's not 21 megabytes. Yes. Continue. But yeah, so that's essentially how a virus works. I just wanted to make a quick video so that anybody that was curious as to how to write a virus. Now, like I said before, whenever I started this video and I didn't have so many fucking problems, you can write this in a shoe application and then use PowerShell to automatically run it. And you can also hide it so that the user doesn't know that it's happening, because as you can tell, it would probably take at least a day for this virus to actually work. But another thing that you can do if you're messing around with viruses is that you can create continuous copies of arrays. So say you have like, I could easily go in and we had such a problem with this, but you could easily go in and say example array, right, is equal to an empty array, and then let's see, while I is greater than 1, example dot push example, right? You could easily do that. And the reason why that's a little bit different than the file writer is because you're continuously creating copies, and it'll reserve those copies until your program is done. So when this is running, it will eventually run out of memory, especially with a virtual machine like this that I only gave it 2 gigabytes of memory. It'll eventually run out of memory. And that's different than the file one, because the file one just keeps on going and writes new files. It doesn't actually save any copies. This while loop saves copies on the computer, so it'll continue to run, and the files won't show up on the computer because it's not writing any files. It'll just continuously grow in memory until the computer not only freezes, but also crashes. So this is how the most basic of the most basic viruses work. You have other viruses that target system files, and you have other ones that install plugins. But now that you know how the most basic viruses work, you can begin to understand how those viruses work. Now, there's also another one that has many different names, but I call it the folder buster. And it's essentially a zip of a zip of a zip of a zip of a zip. And it takes about 5 minutes to create. And the process of making it is you have a bash command set to automatically unzip the unzipped file, right? And you hide it behind a .exe that's inside of a zip file. And essentially, you create a ton of zips that are what? Like, you could easily just write a file that's 1 gigabyte big. And you could do this here, technically. But essentially, you write a file that's 1 gigabyte big, and then you put it in, like, what, 10? And then you copy that one, and you put it in another zip file. You make 10 of those. So it takes up 10 gigabytes, but because you can change the ones and zeros, it can show up as kilobytes. And because there's not much information there, you could just copy those 10 into another file, and then make another 10 and copy those into another file, and then continuously do this until you basically have a file that's like 5 terabytes big, hidden behind a .exe, and whenever the poor soul decides, I'm going to open this txt and extract the I'm going to open up the zip and extract the exe, I'm going to click on the exe, and suddenly their computer crashes because they have no more storage on their space. Now, these are, believe it or not, currently harmless. You don't have what they had in the past. These were extremely harmful at the time that viruses were just being made. And that's because they didn't have automatic shutdowns. Whenever the core got too hot, it wouldn't shut down. It would burn out. That's why these are deadly to those machines. Nowadays, we have automatic shutoffs for temperatures, and I'm able to test this in a virtual environment. We have safety measures to prevent them from killing computers. Additionally, as you already saw in the beginning of this video, Google very, very poignantly knew that this was a virus. And I kind of made it very, blunt by calling it virus example. Okay? So, yeah. So I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you in the next one.